to get everybody out, to ethnically cleanse the entire region. And therefore, Trump is not a moron. The obvious response from Palestinians is going to be, okay, well then we're not leaving. And you have blown up the ceasefire deal, because the ceasefire deal says that more than a week ago, negotiations around phase 2 are supposed to have already started. And negotiations around phase 2 mean that Israel will leave the Philadelphia corridor, which is down there by Rafah and Egypt, and will fully withdraw from Gaza. All of the hostages will be exchanged and reconstruction will begin. That's what phase 2 is supposed to mean. And that is a redevelopment that is, for the people who live there. Egypt has come out and put out a statement saying that they support the general idea of reconstructing Gaza and that they're willing to work with the United States to do this. But of course, the Palestinians have to be able to stay. The idea that is where we're having some level of argument is just nuts. Because there is no, you're getting no Arab buy-in, you're getting no Palestinian buy-in without that. And the U.S. and Israel, absent a nuclear weapon, don't really have the capacity to clear out all of these people
or the will. I
hope they don't.
Like you said, like a
Good
nuclear
Lord.
weapon, or like tunnel warfare.
Right.
Good luck.
Yeah,
boots on the ground tunnel warfare. Ryan, Dropsite pulled this video of King Abdullah of Jordan, a comment that he made along these lines, which was also rather interesting. Let's take a listen to what he said in this presser with Trump.
President, I truly believe that with all the challenges that we have in the Middle East, that I finally see somebody that can take us across the finish line to bring stability, peace, and prosperity to all of us in the region. And it is, I think, our collective responsibility in the Middle East to continue to work with you, to support you.
Meanwhile, we also have this video of Netanyahu talking about a lot of what Ryan was just mentioning, the collapse of the ceasefire deal. Let's take a listen to what he said.
All right, so this is Netanyahu speaking in Hebrew to the Israeli public after the Security Council briefing, and basically saying that because of what Donald Trump has offered to Israel, they're upping their demands, and they're willing to go back to war starting on Saturday if all of the Israeli demands are not met. And Jeremy Scahill over at Dropsite reported some of Netanyahu's comments inside the security briefing, which I think really tell you exactly how this unfolded. Netanyahu said to his counsel here, he said, quote, "You wanted a day after plan, you got one. It just doesn't match the Oslo narrative. We won't repeat that mistake." So he's talking about Donald Trump has now, forever ended Oslo and has given them a day after plan that they did not have before. So he said, quote, "I've come back with a vision without Hamas and without the Palestinian Authority. We know what complete victory is, and we will not give up on it." So what Netanyahu is saying here is very clear. Trump has opened the possibility of complete victory, as he calls it, by which he means the complete eradication of the Palestinian population in Gaza. And therefore, whatever ceasefire agreement they reached beforehand is pointless to pursue when this revolutionary potential is in front of them. So they are declaring their intention to go forward with this starting on Saturday.
So that brings us to this next post from your colleague at Dropsite, Jeremy Scahill. I'm going to put this up on the screen. He says, 9 paragraphs into today's New York Times story on the situation with the Gaza ceasefire, readers are informed that Israeli officials and international mediators, quote, said that Hamas's claims were accurate.
Yeah. This is an incredible moment, because what Hamas has said is that Israel, after a couple of days of letting in some food and medicine, choked off aid again. And also that Israel is more than a week overdue in sending negotiators as required to Doha to negotiate phase 2 of the agreement. And when they finally did send negotiators, Netanyahu specifically forbid them from discussing phase 2 and instead are just talking about some loose ends around phase 1. That is Hamas's claim. According to the mediators and Israeli officials, Hamas's claim is accurate. It's kind of a remarkable line from the New York Times, and not remarkable for them to bury it. You famously should read the New York Times from the bottom up, and that's the way to get the most accurate to the least accurate information. But so that's clearly what's going on. And Hamas has put out a statement last night saying, we continue to be willing to abide by the ceasefire as long as the occupation is willing to abide by the ceasefire, which they pointed out is guaranteed by the United States. So it is Hamas who is standing up for the rules, the process, fairness, the international rules-based order. It's quite an ironic situation if you're somebody that thinks that Hamas is a barbaric, lawless terrorist organization, when it is Israel and the United States that cut a deal, and is now very explicitly abrogating the deal in favor of complete eradication of a population.
I mean, Hamas can still be a barbaric terrorist organization, and when its interests are to comply, to look compliant, to come to the negotiations and say we have all of our T's crossed and I's dotted.
We're all barbaric. It's just what we do, and Hamas here is trying to abide by the rules and trying to abide by their agreement.
Ryan, you guys at Dropsite had a PDF that we were going to go through as slides.
This document was published at Dropsite by my colleagues Jeremy Scahill and Sharif Del Caduce. This is a Hamas document that they circulated among the negotiators and those who are supposed to be guaranteeing that the ceasefire agreement is actually carried out. And so they argue here. And I'll go through this slowly. You can actually just find it at dropsitenews.com. They continued flying drones. Israel continued flying drones. They continued, military vehicles remained in places where they had agreed to remove military vehicles. They demolished homes where they had agreed that they would stop demolishing homes. They killed civilians after saying that there would be a ceasefire. The release of prisoners was delayed, delay in sending a list of prisoners. And then, some of the things we've seen, number 9 here, families of the deported prisoners were prohibited from joining them and from leaving the West Bank. And this is the point they made about humanitarian aid, that humanitarian aid was not getting in. You can see how precise and detailed their complaints are. Their fourth complaint, the denial of essential supplies. You can see that there, as well as finally the fact that they have refused. This is the key one. Political violations. They have refused to abide by the terms that say it's time now to start negotiating a phase 2, and instead they have been publicly saying that they will not, in fact, move on to phase 2. So just as flagrant a series of violations as you could have to an agreement, and one that, as the New York Times reports, the mediators and Israeli officials agree is accurate. So that's all. Everything. You don't have to trust Hamas, but if you trust anybody else involved in this, everyone agrees that document that we just showed you is accurate.
I'm really interested to see how Steve Witkoff's, assuming his role is ongoing in all of this, I'm actually pretty curious to see how he deals with some of these questions, because I think one of the strange things, and honestly, I would say so far, good things about Witkoff rolling in as a businessman has been he looks at some of the leverage on both sides and it's just like, what the heck is going on? This is completely, we've been, obviously the United States has just been approaching this in a way that makes very little sense. So Ryan, in this case, it may be very interesting to see how Witkoff handles these questions.
Yeah, let's see if he could pull some rabbit out of a hat here. But I think Netanyahu smells blood in the water here. Trump has opened up to him a possibility that is too tantalizing, not to at least take a shot at.
Let's now take a look at this clip of Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro talking to Stephen A. Smith, who was shouting us out a bit yesterday. Crystal